This week on The Necessary Entrepreneur, we welcome Clay Busch, founder of SiX18 Media. This new agency is empowering artists, athletes, influencers, and brands to explore and create ancillary monetization models, leveraging their intellectual property, name, image, and audience to create new multi-vertical brands. Clay's vast experience, including pivotal roles in elevating independent live events and developing global stars at Interscope, Geffen, and A&M Records, makes him a noteworthy figure in the industry. Clay's innovative approach to artist development, marketing, and brand partnerships has consistently pushed the boundaries of traditional entertainment business models. In this episode, Clay and I talk about brand collaborations, consolidating talents, and treating artists like businesses for marketing campaign purposes. We talk about following intuition, executing your ideas, and focusing on the long term while balancing the digital age with the real world. Hey, stick around as Clay explains what he calls sticky moments. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, comment below, and share this with your friends. I hope you're as excited about this conversation as me. I want to welcome on The Necessary Entrepreneur, Clay Busch. All sorts of things, man. You've been doing this media, marketing, agency, promotional gig for years, but you just kicked off a brand new venture, man, called SiX18 Media.
Good. Yeah.
All right,
excited
man.
about it.
We were just talking about it. You said that, I said, man, what's happening? What's going on? I said, you in Nashville today? And you're like, yeah, man, I just got back from Vegas. And I said, what were you doing in Vegas? A little football game or something?
A little bit.
You were talking about one of your clients and him being number one in the bourbon space. So this new venture, I want to hear about it, but man, we want to hear all about you and your brilliance and your perspective. But this new thing isn't just about, I read what Billboard's press release was for it. I saw you shared that on Instagram, and it said it was a new agency that you help artists and more expand their brands. The and more is interesting.
Yeah, and the and more goes back to a variety. I mean, and that's the interesting thing. It's like when I really started thinking about doing this on my own, and this has probably been 5-6 years in the making. You know, I've always been more than just a quote unquote music guy. I've always been a lifestyle guy, and that kind of stemmed to when I started Interscope Records and working in artist development. It necessarily wasn't about working a song or working a record. It was always about working the brand and working the project. So when I started thinking about doing this, a few years ago, when I originally left Danny Warren Presents, it wasn't the right time because I wasn't there yet. But when you look at kind of the way the culture is segmented, music's a lifestyle, but the and more can be anything from an athlete. It can be a whiskey guy, like we just did in Las Vegas with Fred, who came to me originally as just an author and has turned into more of a pop culture guy now with a podcast and events and sitting with Peyton Mannings of the world and the Killer Mikes of the world. So you got that cross culture from music and athletics already kind of brought, kind of working together in the whiskey culture already. So the and more is everything. It's talent, it's culture, it's lifestyle. So it could be anything from Amanda Vance, who's one of the top sporting betting influencers in the game, and she bets at a 70% click, and people follow her and subscribe to her just to have access to her picks because she's good at what she does. And some places call her the number one at what she does. And then you have Fred Minnick, who's the top of his craft in the whiskey food and beverage world when it comes to pairing. And then when it comes to the music and the other lifestyles, like the musicians I work with, Mike's Dead, for example, he's more than just a musician. He's a development artist on the music side, but he's an established kid from a social media perspective. There's a modeling aspect to what he wants to do with his career. He has long-term ambitions to creating his own record label, his own brand from Sonics, but also be an actor. Same thing goes for Danny Warsnop from Asking Alexandria. I manage Danny Warsnop, the talent, not Danny Warsnop in Asking Alexandria or the band Asking Alexandria. My goal is to take Danny, take the momentum that he's done an incredible job creating the past decade in his music career, and take him from a solo perspective for his own solo, his solo priorities that he wants to do, from his tequila ambitions that he has, from his modeling, from his acting as well. So for me, it's been consolidating talent and finding artists talent, athletes, whatever it may be, that have verticals and they want to showcase other verticals than just what they normally are, kind of showcased and what are positioned and pigeonholed to do their entire careers.
It seemed like as I really researched all the stuff you guys are building and how you're positioning 618, I heard the word leverage and verticals throughout it, right? So multiple verticals. And then you also mentioned when you were introducing some of the stuff you were doing from Vegas, you said cross-cultural. And then that carries over into collaborations now. This is a whole new game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just it's not a new game, because at the end of the day, this has been happening since Jack Daniels and Frank Sinatra were in Vegas together back in the early days, when Frank Sinatra wasn't an ambassador, he wasn't attached to the brand, but because his lifestyle and his culture, and when people were interviewing him saying, what golf club are you a member of? He wasn't a member of a golf club, but he loved Jack Daniels. Said, I'm a member of the Jack Daniels Country Club. Well, that just went nuts. Where's the Jack Daniels Country Club? All this conversation started. This is all pre-internet. But what that did is that showed a brand stickiness. I use the term brand stickiness, where you have music, liquor, events. It can be liquor, it can be anything and what it may be. But what you had there were two cultures colliding, which made it an incredible kind of moment happen for a brand, to the point where Jack Daniels went out of allocation. They had to change their ad campaign saying, we're unavailable. Sorry for the inconvenience. It's quality over quantity. So Jack Daniels then had to position themselves based off of an organic thing happen with an artist. And I think going back to this cross-culture lifestyle phenomenon, it's been going on since the day brands and products have been working on. And I think where I'm seeing it now more than ever is that these artists, and I use artists and musicians more than anything because I feel they're the ones that are most represented, where they're more than just a merch act. They're more just a touring ticket act. They're more than just being on radio or getting a sync or getting a music or a song on a game. There's all these other things that go into being an artist. And I think you see it in the pop world. You see it in hip hop specifically. And now you're starting to see it a little bit with Metallica, where they're crossing into lifestyle. They're crossing into cultures. We saw it with Blackened. We've seen it with Slipknot and their whiskey. We've seen it with other brands too. But what it comes down to is just finding the little niches and the lanes where not only are you super serving your core audience, you're super serving your entire demographic.
So leveraging a brand. So is it important? Like I go all the way back to when Paul Mitchell, the shampoo and hair guy, created a tequila brand. So is it essential that you have a brand built that then you can leverage? Can you bring them up together, or do you pretty much have to have that brand to work with that you can cross collaborate and across cultural lines?
See, it's funny. It goes back to you can't fit a square peg in a round hole. Like Paul Mitchell, and I don't know enough about his brand. I don't know the success of it, and I could be completely speaking out of turn because it could be highly successful in some people's eyes. But unless you're a fan of the product that you're trying to get into, like I'm not a country fan, like I'm not a country musician all of a sudden saying I'm going to be a metal band, right? It's the same thing. It's like it needs to be so much on the head where it works for the conversation. So Paul Mitchell, if he was a tequila fanatic, and he's at all these distilleries, he's traveling, he's on his social media in Mexico and trying tequila and tasting tequila, and it's a part of his culture and it's part of his ethos as a human being, then a tequila collab would work for a Paul Mitchell because he's authentically out there in the marketplace.
Yep. So this comes from authenticity. So do you think that was the thing with Conor McGregor and his whiskey brand? I mean, did that thing?
Oh, yeah. That was authentic because and I'm speaking completely direct to the point. That's a $20 liquor brand. It serves its point. It's not there to sip. It was never on a quality perspective. It was always played as a volume perspective. But that goes back to what McGregor's fan is. That's shot culture. That's the Jameson culture, right? They really went after that Jameson crowd. Jameson's never been a cocktail. Jameson's never been sitting there like, oh, I'm gonna have a Jameson neat at the bar. It's never came in. And Irish whiskey is drank neat at the bar, but Jameson isn't. A proper 12 isn't. But there's incredible Irish whiskeys out there that you would sip. But in those two cases, that was the core demo. Cheap price point, hit my super serve my consumer, build into my ecosystem where I can authentically talk about it because McGregor's out there. He's at the bars. He's at the events. He's always talking about building businesses and being an entrepreneur. And so him attaching himself to Diageo and Proper 12 was a fantastic move, especially the price point they came at. It wasn't a $70, $80, $90, $100 price point. It was right there in that $20, $30, which was very safe for his consumer to get behind. And then if you're a fan of McGregor and you're watching UFC fight, it's gotten into muscle memory. I'm going to order that Proper 12, or I'm going to order that whatever it may be. And Monster Energy did the same thing with UFC. Just putting that claw next to the ring and on the ring, and having the fighters have the claw on their jerseys or on their shorts or whatever they're walking out to. That's a direct hit when it comes to culture, because Monster Energy, that aggressive energy drink, makes a lot of sense for the UFC and those types of fighters because they're high energy, aggressive brand.
Makes sense. What about, I'm sitting here thinking like, man, let me challenge Clay in some way. Like, what about a Ryan Reynolds and a Mint Mobile? Like, how's that happen?
I don't know. I know Ryan Reynolds had incredible gin though with aviation, and that goes back to a guy that's out there selling it. It's authentic to him. It's important to him. He loves gin, so he's basically saying, "I make the best gin. I'm going to go out there and put my name and my brand behind it." That's the key here. Is like you got to put your money where your mouth is, especially if you want to come in and create a new business, a real business that can act as a new revenue stream for you, and not just be there as like, oh, we have the River and Nichols conversation. No, like, we want to create real revenue streams that didn't exist prior to this. And if you do it right, a liquor stream can be that. Any of these alternative revenue streams can be that in the collaboration space.
What's your thoughts about years ago, if an influencer, we all love the term, and all these kids growing up, they want to be YouTube influencers, and hey, that's great aspirations, but you better be the elite of the elite. But let's say somebody has 5 million Instagram followers and they're paid to do some type of influencing post. They're paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a post. Is it essential to find the right celebrity to do that influencer post? Like, does that connection need to hang up too? Even if the influencer doesn't have an interest or a stake in the thing, that still is important?
It does, because imagine like you're going to an influencer doesn't drink or isn't authentic to the brand, and it just looks like a cash grab. I mean, you can look at the Fire Festival as a low-hanging fruit example. You just get a bunch of influencers to put your money into something, buy tickets. They buy tickets. The brand didn't see the return because the festival didn't happen. It was actually turned into multiple documentaries. And a lot of the times the influencer gets targeted when it comes to that because they're the face of these campaigns too. So, going back to like making sure it works, the influencer's got to be on brand too, right? So it's like you're not going to put a sober, and I use this, a sober artist to talk about Jack Daniels. No, you want to have a whiskey person. You want to have an artist that sings about whiskey, talks about whiskey, tours, loves whiskey. It's a part of their culture to be your brand ambassador, and they'll be happy to be those brand ambassadors because now you have an authentic fan. And I think as you get to that next tier of brand where you get fandoms involved, like a Monster Energy, and we use those Monsters, those Jacks, those Bud Lights of the world, like that's just core culture. And there's already a fandom built within that. So it's about attacking the right fan that actually has influence, in my opinion. So I only want to work with people that are that enjoy what they're doing. So, if you want to do a whiskey, you better love whiskey, because you don't have to sit there for multiple days and weeks talking about your blends and your flavor profiles to get it right. Because when we come to market, we don't want to just be a flash in the pan. It's like, oh, it's another band collab. And there's a lot of those conversations that happen. It's okay to be a small band, come out small, do it right. And then you're a band like Goodbye June that does a collab with 3-Chord Bourbon. And all of a sudden you have a bourbon that's ranked in the top 40 of all American whiskeys released last year. So I think that's a good way of like, okay, now we're authentically introducing ourselves because we're cred, we're core. And I use the beverage space specifically because it's so fickle to release, because there's so many out there and it's such a hot topic. But if you come in there right with a good product and you're a fan of the product and you can speak with education behind it, you're off to the races.
I'm assuming the brand that you're working with from the agency perspective, that person has to be all in. Right. If you're going to have multiple collaborations, they can't just put the hat on, right, and then take it off, and they're not promoting and they're not engaging.
Yeah, and it goes across, because not only I'm a talent manager, I'm a talent agent, so it goes across for all my clients, and I won't take new clients on. If you're a musician, for example, and you don't have multiple verticals a part of your long-term plan, I'm probably not the right guy for you. If you're a musician that wants to have a traditional manager that's going to be focused on the touring and the cloth, that we are focused on that, but that's not all we're focused on. And so I think it goes back to the way the new age is kind of set, and the way we operate as a business. We treat artists as businesses. We treat their brands and IPs as businesses. You have to have rights to use these likes and names and images to push something and to monetize something, because there's multi tiers to this that benefit the artist too, from a marketing perspective, with these collaborations too. So maybe the band's not getting a ton of money. Maybe it's a small fee. Maybe it's nothing at all, but there may be a $2-3 million ad campaign attached to it, where all of a sudden the song, the face is everywhere attached to it. And it's another sticky moment when it comes to the marketing campaign and getting your brand out there to new fans.
So you brought up sticky again. Why is that important? Why is that term? What's that term mean to you?
It's just like anything. It's like the flypaper. Once you get them, you get them. And I think it's like muscle memory. I have a term we use here to create sticky moments, is what we say. It's the term of 3. You got 3 seconds to get them for 30 seconds, to get them for 3 minutes, to get them forever. And so it's always the terms of three. And if you look at 618, we're all denominators of the number three, right? So for us, it's using the 3 to 3 to 3 model to create those sticky moments, to create a real brand moment. Because at the end of the day, we're not trying to do quick shot in the pans. I don't want just to do a 1 year and done marketing campaign. I want to have something that lives for 5-10 years, that grows when the band's not touring, or an artist isn't active with a movie, or an athlete's retired from the NFL or the NBA or wherever they may be coming from. They got to have a business sustaining after that. And they have a celebrity, they have a brand that they've created. Now it's about us maintaining that momentum and keeping that brand going.
What about your past 20 years being around this industry, entrepreneurial? Yep. What passion, what idea, what purpose created this? You put all the 20 years together, like why?
I can answer in one. It's very simple. Beats by Dre. I was very lucky to be inside the Interscope Records building when Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre decided to create this Beats by Dre moment. As I've got moved around in the lifestyle space, I ended up consulting for Maloof Entertainment Group, which was the Palms Hotel, and they had a joint venture with Interscope at the time. And that was right when Jimmy was gifting custom headphones to athletes. So you get the CC Sabathia old school. These are the original plastics. These are right after the metals came out. And I used to go up to the office and get them from Luke Wood's office, and the Beats by Dre team was only a team of 3 people inside our building. I'd walk up there and I'd say, hey, do you have the CC Sabathia headphones, or do you have the Palms Hotel headphones, or the Tyreek Evans from Sacramento Kings? Because they would customize these. So CC's with the New York Yankees with his number, and they give them to him. So he'd be wearing them in press conferences. It was such a simple moment like that, where you took a brand with another brand, and I didn't need the Yankees logo on it. I just needed the number, and I needed the guy wearing it because he was the one moving the brand. And all of a sudden you had this cool fashion thing happening where it was more than just a headphone. It was like a part of their fashion, a part of what they were wearing, a part of what they were going to press conferences in, to the point where Beats became so disruptive, the NFL had to say, you can't wear Beats by Dre headphones when you're warming up. It's Bose headphones only. We all remember that whole thing went down. And then Jimmy and Beats said, well, just apply the Nike model, which now I think about what Jordan and Nike did on the collaboration space on an extreme disruptive level. And it's the same concept. Oh, we'll just pay your fines. And that's what Beats by Dre was doing to these athletes, rocking their stuff. It's like, don't worry about it. We got you covered because you like our stuff. So we'll take care of you. You're not forced to wear anything. You're kind of the leader of your own tribe. So beat the drum that you want to it,
Do you think all those experiences formed and taught you how to think? Because if you go back and you watch Air, the movie, and how that went down, if people didn't know about it, and that was pretty much the hook in those meetings, if they portrayed it properly, that, hey, we're not worried about all the coloration on the shoe. Let's just make it look awesome, and we'll pay the fee. And even though that might seem simple, that kind of was the unlock for the entire campaign.
It was. And be yourself. It was be yourself and make the shoe to the person. I think the one takeaway I had from that, because it was Converse, right? It was up between Converse and Nike. Converse was the big dog in the room. They had Bird and they had Magic, right? But what was the difference? The shoes. What did they look like? They looked the exact same. The only difference was one was green and one was purple, right? And I think that's where they came. It's like, no, we're going to have a little more of a fashion. And I think they.
And we don't care what it costs. It's a different type of thinking, right?
We don't care what it costs. And in fact, I don't think they cared how the shoe performed early on, because they didn't have the technology yet, where it's like, just make it look good. And I think early on, Jordan actually talks about how painful these shoes were to wear for them until they got the technology right. But to me, that was a disruptive moment, because that made Michael stand out as the brand ambassador to Nike. But also the Jordan, if you really look at Jordan as a businessman, as a brand, as an athlete, that was the most brilliant thing he could have done, is taking the long-term success over the short-term win for himself. And say, let me have a piece of the company. Let me do all the things that get us to the point now where Air Jordan is on football jerseys. Air Jordan's on golf clubs. They're part of all sports and all cultures now. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of sports, you're rocking because it's a fan of lifestyle now.
Is that tough for you? Because in today's culture, and I don't think it's just today, I think it's been a part of this human mindset forever, is, boy, we want to see these short-term wins and short-term outcomes and find the shortcuts. And it is essential to convince people to think about the long term, whatever that looks like. I don't know if long term for you is 3 or 5 or 7 or 10. Is that tough to be able to connect with new clients and sell this idea and this vision?
Not necessarily, because I think some clients want short term. So it's just about, I always tell people, especially with my agent and management alliances, we're reactive. I'm never going to go in there, and I'll speak on behalf of one of my clients. I'm never going to go into a meeting and saying Fred Minnick will do this for you, or Mike's Dead, or Danny Warsnop, or Amanda Vance are going to do this for you. I never do that. That's selfish. That's not brand partnership centric. What's right for me and right for my brands and my products that I represent is to go to a Nike. Let's use them as an example and have Nike dictate the conversation. We are looking for A, B, C, D, and E, right? Well, I don't have A, B, C, and D, but I happen to have something in E, right? And it may be a tough sell, but at least it's something to start a conversation. I'm bringing you something back. You got to be reactive on those conversations rather than be proactive on pitching a client, because the craziest idea can turn into something real. I've had plenty of clients pitch to high-end fashion lines, the biggest clients in the world, A-list, and they've said, no, 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 no. But I've had a development artist at a B- level, and I use that with all due respect. That means they're developing and they're not really known. I've had a big fashion brand come back and say, yo, we love this kid. We want to mess with him. We want to develop him. We want to put him in our world, because it's important for us to showcase this kid's growth, because as he gets bigger, we're going for a ride too. So it goes back to a little bit of like, not artist development, but brand development, where even a brand will see it and they want to attach themselves to something they think is fresh and cool and go along for a ride too. So I think it's a little bit of both, right? The brand's going to come to me. The brand's going to tell me what their goals are. And then it's up to me to provide based off of my alliances or my direct clients that I work with on what's best. At the end of the day, I'm only good at what I do if I get something that the brand likes. And I think that's where I have to explain to everybody I work with, and my clients know this better than anyone. It's like, we are great at what we do. The brands will come to us. And that's where you've seen early on, like a Mike's Dead, for example, having a Monster Energy tour water attached to him. Sober artist, doesn't drink, doesn't do the energy drink thing, super body health and wellness driven. It's a perfect segment for the energy drink category for Monster to come in with their tour water to attach themselves to a 27-year-old kid that's touring, staying hydrated, cares about his body, and hitting the road chasing a drink. That's exactly the ethos of what Monster Energy wants to be a part of. So it's a natural fit for them, and it works out for both parties in that sense.
What keeps you up at night with this new venture, other than a great post Super Bowl party?
I love what I do. I love it. It's funny because a lot of my friends are like, you look tired, or how do you keep your energy up at the same time? It's like, I literally wake up and I love this. This is cool. Every day's a game. And an old athlete myself. I played football in college. I wasn't great, but I played. But that competitiveness kind of drives me. The fact that I'm super serving a genre that, in a core group of people that have been kind of ignored for a long time. And I go to that where 99% of talent is ignored. People only care about the 1%, the Beyoncés, the Taylor Swifts, and they have incredible brands, businesses. And hopefully the artists and clients that I work with will go to that level someday where they can say no to everything and yes to the 1%. But what it comes down to is there's all these other groups, 99% that are ignored because they don't hit that 1%. And that's the opportunity that I'm trying to find. And that's the opportunity I have now, where I can provide opportunity to anything and anyone, be it through an athlete, be it through an actor, be it through a podcaster, influencer, or a musician. And that's truly based on what brands want. And by understanding that and really having a core belief into that place in marketing, it's to me, it's the stickiest part of brand development you can have. Because if you're looking at Super Bowl commercials, brand launches have talent. Every brand has talent attached to it. So let's pay attention to the 99% instead of the 1% and create opportunity for those is kind of my mindset.
How do you do it? Is it your job to tell the story?
Yeah, storytelling, brand storytelling, but it's also, making it make sense to them too, because, a high fashion line may not want to talk about a heavy metal kid, but if you come in with the right pitch and the right aspect and the right avenue of why it makes sense, it's more than the music. And that's where I keep going back to these, especially my musician clients. It's more than the music they're putting out. The music is the soundtrack of what you get with them. But there's so much else that comes with a Mike's Dead or a Danny Warsnop or some of the other clients I work with from a musical perspective. They offer all these things. They're songwriters, they're producers, they're tequila entrepreneurs, they're businessmen. I mean, that's where they're coming from, and the music's just a part of their core business.
If you go back, let's say 15 years ago, if you can put yourself in the mindset of that Clay, what's the Clay today tell that guy about, are there shortcuts? Can you speed it up? stay away from these things, make that decision better, what's the best advice you'd give that kid?
Stay the course. Stay the course. Be patient. That's what I learned, and I think that's what I did, because I easily could have done this when I decided when I got. And honestly, the reason I left Danny is I got a little burnt out on the live event space more than anything, like these massive mass gatherings, and where I was from a where I wanted to be. I didn't want to be a festival promoter my whole life, so I could have easily said, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to be a festival promoter, right? I could have said, I'm just going to do the things I know, Graham. I'm going to be in a record label and all the background I have. I'm just going to do it. No, I slowed down. I had a lot of conversations. I talked to the right people. I trusted the people that I wanted to continue to be attached to. Danny Wimmer presents included, because they're always going to be close to me, and they're still very close to me, and I still do work with them. But really, it was more about taking a step back and seeing the business as a whole. And I think that's what I got lucky, is like where I was on the Interscope side from a record label perspective and a product manager, to seeing Beats by Dre get started, to being on the Idol Rock Maloof side when they were launching touring entities and managing artists, to going to Danny Wimmer and basically running his marketing, his media, his brand partnerships to these festivals from day one up until I left in 2018. To the last 4 years I've been at Shelter. All that time gave me the knowledge and confidence and to say what I was thinking was right. That the collaboration space is the right place for talent to be. Focusing on the new money. Don't focus on the traditional. Focus on new opportunity. Go back to, like, it almost was like a go back to what I did at Interscope. You know, it's like go back to lifestyle and find those opportunities. Well, lifestyle just happens to be brands now, and sponsorships and talent representing and building touring properties. There's no difference between that and any other brand partner. So I think I go back more to my Interscope days when you really look at it, because I see what Jimmy did early on, seeing how we tied lifestyle into everything, and then the music supported it, and then the radio came, and then all the playlist thing and all the stuff that kind of happens now organically when you develop an artist. I think that's what I took first more than anything, is that you have to develop and do development first. And back then it was called artist development. I call it brand development now. So if you don't have a developed brand, or you don't start seeing brand development going, you can't really take it to the next level for growth. And
You don't have anything to market then, right?
You don't have anything to market, and then you're going to start having weird conversations because what you're saying isn't true. You're not following through. And if I wasn't managing Fred Minnick and saying, hey, we're going to go do 200 tickets in Vegas, and we're going to bring this amount of brands and these sponsors and this town and these celebrities, if we didn't do it, we'd be full of shit. No pun, excuse my language, but
yeah, no,
we have to follow through with what we do. And I think the long answer is I would tell myself to stay the course, be patient, keep working hard, and kill people with kindness. I think those are like the kind of the pillars that I would take and tell myself then, because those are the things I was lacking when I left, and I really started thinking about what I wanted to do in 2018. Is
kill people with kindness. That links up with relationships. I've found that relationships are the foundation and the core of everything I've personally built in my life.
Yeah, and I care, and I genuinely care. Like with all due respect, I'm very fortunate to set up an opportunity for myself where I'm never going to be in the quote unquote check chasing game. I'm gonna be in the brand chasing game for the right reasons, right? So I'm not out there like, oh man, I gotta close this $5,000 sponsorship so I can make my $500. Like, what is that? That does nothing for me. And on top of that, that $5,000 may not do anything for the artist. But let's take it one step further. Does that brand do anything for the artist? Is that going to be a bad look for the artist? Is that taking 2 steps back now to take 1 step forward? I'd rather take 1 step forward to take 2 steps forward, or 1 step back to take 2 steps forward. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the patient side of things, the brand integrity thing. Maintain your cool, like little trigger words I say to my artists, because I only sign things, like I said, that have a vibe, have a lifestyle attached to them, right? So it's like, maintain your cool, maintain your brand, do what you think is right. We have all these people saying what we should be doing. No, we're going to stay the course and do what we think is right, because at the end of the day, the brand knows better.
What'd you rely on when, even though we're getting further away from it, but when February and March of 2020 arrived? We were not ready for what was coming our way with COVID and the pandemic. What'd you rely on to get through that, being in your industry? Because what a massive interrupter, huh?
and this is, it's weird for me to say this. COVID was good for me and my clients. It wasn't good for the company I was attached to. A lot of the artists and those people I was working with, it was not good. But from an overall, what my clients were doing, it opened up a little bit of how you can pivot. And Shelter Music Group massively pivoted incredibly during COVID. I think we were one of the few management companies that were providing revenue and growing during the COVID
Can you give us an example on what you did, how that happened?
Fred Minnick, like? Yeah, the Fred Minnick is a good example, and it's one of the reasons we are where we're at now. Is Fred was a tasting guy, did bourbon tastings, it's book signings, very simple type of business for him being an author and being a whiskey critic. When COVID hit he did private tastings that were in public. Clubs all around Kentucky would bring him in to do these tastings and get paid. And this is how he made his ancillary money. And it was good money for him. And this is right at the beginning when I started working with him because I believed him as a talent and I thought we could grow his live events business mainly. We pivoted and turned him into a podcast. We literally turned him into, instead of using our relationships to get you the right bourbon, let's use our relationships to get you the right guests now. So it turned into the Whiskey Authority, which was the joke. And I always tell people I hate calling him that now because that's the natural low-hanging fruit fit for him. He went from the Whiskey Authority to the guy, the drinking buddy guy, the guy that you're just going to sit there and have a conversation. Just like if you and me were at a bar and we're sitting there having a conversation, you and I would probably sipping a cocktail. It's the same premise of what Hot Ones is, same premise of what we are. So we flipped it and we used our relationships to get talent and guests. And early on, it started with the Lindsay L's of the world and some of these jelly rolls, which were at the time easier for us to get. Now jelly rolls much larger, which we're very proud of. And that's what makes the Fred Minnick show so important is because we were the first to interview jelly roll. We're the first to interview these guys. And as they go, they're going to continue to come back to Fred because he was there early on supporting these artists. But Fred's podcast turned into Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, Jelly Roll, E40. I mean, I'm leaving so many off. Ian Somerhalder, Graham McTavish, and I could just go on and on from athletes, musicians, A-listers, to actors. And it's become the go-to show to the point where he's had a #1 podcast on Apple. His private business, when we did this, changed where he did private virtuals because the virtual concerts started happening. So we pivoted and did private virtuals. So I had brands, big brands, and we all know the names of these brands because we're probably on them right now, currently on our computers, would pay Fred to come in and we'd curate an incredible whiskey selection legally through a retailer that would send it to these brands. And Fred would sit there on a Zoom like you and I are doing, and we're having a conversation, doing a live tasting. And that's what we did. We pivoted. We went virtual. We took his show and made it a virtual podcast, a live show like the Tonight Show would be, or Late Night with David Letterman, or Hot Ones with Liquor. And then we turned his live events business into a virtual events business because there was more of a need because people were sitting at home lacking human connection, lacking those moments after work. We're going to go have happy hour together. We didn't have that anymore. So Fred Minnick became that guy where 8:00 at night on a Thursday or Friday, we're going to jump on the Zoom and do this private tasting with our colleagues and the #1 dude in the business.
What allowed you all to think that way, to have the mindset, to have the approach, to have the growth mindset that said, hey, let's do this thing with confidence, take action now, where it held others back? What created you and Fred and in that space, like, let's go do this?
I just think it's the mentality of how we operate from a culture business-wise. And Fred and I are very similar. And without Fred, I probably wouldn't have the confidence to do this right off the bat like I did with SiX18. Fred Minnick allowed me to because Fred Minnick and I really believe in ourselves and allow us to believe in everyone else we're attached to because of that. But that was like kind of the starter. You know, I believe in every one of my clients, obviously, but Fred was the one that kind of got me thinking a certain way. But it comes down to like, we know what's best and we got to do what's best for the brand. And a big key moment of the Fred Minnick growth was when I hired Andrew Goodfriend to come in as our booking agent. He's a traditional rock and roll music agent. And he didn't know what to do. And Fred and I literally told him to book him like you would do appearances for lead singers. And that's what happened. And he just started, he's like, oh, I can do that because he's been doing that for 20, 30 years, right? So book him like privates for lead singers of your bands minus the performance, and the performance is the drinking. There we go. And he connected to that. So for us, it's just about explaining and getting people to feel a vision and understand a vision. So they're passionate about a vision. So they're just going to go. But, you know, it goes back to we love what we do. We're passionate what we do. We come in there, and every day is fun, as much as a challenge could be. So for the Fred Minnick business, is like, yeah, it was tough, but look at all the stuff that we have happening now because of it. And we look back on that, and that all stems from COVID in 2020, us pivoting his live events business into virtual, and us pivoting his creating a podcast, necessarily just strip creating a podcast now. And that's turned into a hard ticket. That's turned into a tour, and now that's turned into one of the top Super Bowl events, as mentioned by People, Billboard, USA Today, annually now in our second year. And we're going to go back to New Orleans in year 3 and grow it even further. So it's just about the brand and the lifestyle of what it comes down to. And that's all he is.
Could you, you did it once. How do you catch lightning in a bottle again?
Just, there's no, you can't plan for it. You can only prepare for it.
The virality of something.
Yeah, you don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, you just got to be prepared for it and be able to react on it. I mean, I'm lucky early on in my career where I've had artists hit lightning in a bottle. So you'd had to be reactive quick, like, oh shit, it's working really quick. And I've had that on from a pop perspective when I was working early on with Lady Gaga on her first record when there was no radio, and all of a sudden Just Dance was popping. All of a sudden she's the hottest thing, and I have to do pop-up store appearances with her and all these things. Like, it started there, you kind of saw it, but the thing is there was a reaction moment, and I think that's where we have to be reactive off of. It goes back to brands, right? Reacting off of brand moments. We saw it with Gaga. I saw it early on with a rock band called Otherwise when I had a song called Soldiers get picked up by the military, and the band didn't really necessarily grow, but the song grew out of it and got the band some opportunities. But that became the theme song of the military, and that's all organic. So it's like being prepared where, okay, that song hits, cool, we can get you a record deal, we can get you a touring, we can get you a booking, we can get you moving on that to get the business going. But then at the end of the day, just like anything, it's up to the business leaders to take that momentum and continue that momentum. So I think you can see that over time. It's like you flash in the pans, some maintain, some go away. And I think that goes back to being prepared for the flash in the pan. So every one of my clients, from Mike Stead to Amanda to Fred, we're always thinking 3-5 years from now, to answer your question.
What's the world going to be in 5 years, Clay?
I think you're going to see a revolt back into tangible a little bit, based off of data I'm seeing, based off of how youth is exploring content now. I think the tangible moments are going to be more important. I don't think it's going to be the same amount of volume tangible, but I think you're going to find a nice balance between digital and physical, from the real world to the digital world. From a live events perspective, from enjoying it, from watching it like you and I are, to having conversation. I think that's going to get even more, quote unquote, intrusive and more personal. And the reason I say that is because technology is going to allow you and I to feel like we're in the same room. But there's also going to be that gap where we don't want that. And I think you're starting to see that now with the cell phone change and the kids and the type of music they're listening to and the vinyl resurgence and whatnot. You're not going to see a CD come back, but you could see the vinyl being the core way you listen to music again, outside just the quick Spotify's, which has turned into that's your radio now. So I think,
for artists to hit big now, don't they have to have a really good live outing, whether it's a great concert tour? That's driving the revenue and the exposure and the brand now, isn't it? It's
everything. You got to have a 3-tier brand. I keep saying about the brand stuff, but the music's got to be incredible. The content, the visual content you have to have has to be incredible and on par with the music you're releasing. The show has to be on par with the content and the music that you're releasing. So those 3 things go hand in hand. And then you can start seeing the growth happen, and then getting in front of the right audiences. And that's where it's like, the way I have always operated for artist development, because I started really early on with Interscope, is that you balance between support and headline, right? And this is just straight music conversation right now. So get on the big tours, kill them, try to make your money back if you can, invest in your production, invest in your experience, then come back and headline, and then take those fans, and then come back and support and take those fans, and just keep snowballing it from there. I think the biggest mistake, especially in the rock space, I don't see this in any other genre of music, is that rock artists are at the mercy of headliners. Every development guy is at the mercy of the Big Ten, or if they're Big Ten or Big Eight, whatever they want to call out who the names are. We all know one's Metallica, right? Well, there's been some incredible acts that have gone out with Metallica, but no one's ever broke with Metallica. And if you got to earn that slot. So I think like the Ice Nine Kills of the world, that band's been a band for 10, 12, 15 years, and they finally made it, and now they're playing Metallica. Now they're seeing the benefits of playing with Metallica because they have fans built in, they have a merchandise, they have a brand, they are what they are. So once you get them, you get them. But if that was 10 years ago and you're just some opening band that's very new and there's not a lot of awareness around you and you're not fully sure who you are yet from a perspective overall, it's hard to create those sticky moments, to keep those fans when they watch you, to keep them engaged, to keep them lifelong fans. And so I've always been at the point now where it's like you get that shot, invest all you got into that shot if the time's right, but also take it back and you got to keep going and headlining. And it may not be sexy early on. It may be 200-300 kids in a room at one point, but trust me, if you keep that mindset, and we've seen it does work if you're open to balancing it out that way. But that comes down to what the brands want to do, what the companies want to do. And honestly, if there's ego involved, a lot of times people don't want to play in small rooms. I just want to go out and play the big rooms. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But I'm in artist development. I pride myself on being in artist development and brand development. And I think you have to do those things in order to grow successfully. And the artists we're seeing that have done that, Bring the Horizon, great example. They've gone out with everybody. They've also headlined everywhere. And the music is there to follow, strong brand, superstar lead singer that's polarizing off the stage. And now you see why Bring the Horizon is what they are. It's the three-headed monster in that sense.
Is the it factor something in your industry? Do you think about that when you're looking for talent?
It's the only thing I think about. Only thing I think about. Only thing, because you have to look at them first. I'm being brutally honest. I tell everyone, I gotta look at you before I get to hear you. Before I get anything, I have to look at you. And I know it's and it doesn't mean you have to look a certain way. It doesn't mean you have to be the protocol skinny 6'4" model guy with tattoos and looking great. No. You just have to look. You have to have the look. It's a look, and Lizzo's got a look. Right? Everyone's got their look and their brand of what works for them and what works for their audience. So when you come to me and you're like, hey, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z, well, I'm going to look at you first and be like, are you the guy that can do X, Y, and Z? Mike's Dead's a perfect example. When I first met him, I looked down, I was like, holy shit, you're a fucking 6'4" monster, great looking, and you make that music? Okay, we got to talk more. Because that's how it kind of got the conversation started. And then you get to know where his mind is, where his ambitions are, where he wants to take his business. I'm not just trying to tour and be in a band my whole life. I want to be an actor. I want to be a model. I want to do high fashion runway, New York Fashion Week. Those are the conversations I have with Mike Dead. And then the music kind of comes with that because that supports his brand because that's who he is. So it's like, it goes back to the soundtrack of your life. We all have a soundtrack. These artists, these brands, their soundtrack is their music.
Are goals important to them? I saw something the other day. There's these gurus of mindset and thought leaders, and they talk about goals. And a few of them out here believe if someone can't clearly identify a goal or the goals they want for their life, if they can't do that and they're not willing to go through that process, there's nothing you can do.
No.
Are they important in your business too for the talent that you're looking for and working with?
Yeah, from an early perspective, just ticket sales goals early on. I want to hit 200 tickets a market. It's a low number, but for our early artists just getting on the road for the first time, that's the first goal you want to hit. I want to go to 100. Okay, cool. Let's double it. 200. Okay, let's double it. 400. Let's double it. I always want to double every time I go on a market, right? And if we double more, then I think we're doing something right. And even we get close, we're doing something right. So on a low level, early on perspective, it's all about doubling ticket sales and doubling your merch and going back to the market and showing growth and showing the quote unquote snowball effect that we always use in term here. Mm-hmm. So it is important to have those goals, but also like the 3 to 5, where do you want to be? Like you got to visualize an attack. I've always been in that sense. I don't care if you think it's unattainable. I look at Mike's Dead, and the reason I signed Mike's Dead is because I think he can be an arena act. Not because I think he's going to sell out the Wiltern. I think this kid can be the next Rammstein. I think the kid can be the next Marilyn Manson. I think the kid can be the next Trent Reznor. That's why I signed him. I'm not trying to find those 3. I want to find the next guy who's going to do it for 30 years, who's passionate about it, loves it, lives in the studio, just always on the grind, working his ass off, working harder than me. Those are the type of artists that win in our world. Danny Warsop's the same way, always in the studio. Amanda Vance, always researching. Fred Minnick, always out there reading, researching, interviewing, podcasting, popping up, being seen. There's more than just playing a show or doing your event or being seen on an interview. So I think it goes back to being active all the time and making anything you do a part of your brand, can be a part of your brand to help you grow your brand. Even the Super Bowl, you can send a whiskey guy, a sports girl, and a rock star there, and they all can hang out and they all can work together and they all can walk the red carpets together. You all get benefits together because at the same time, pop culture is pop culture.
What do you do from the business development perspective? That's important with a new business, right? In this entrepreneurial space, because at the end of the day, you're a business operator. Yeah, you're a promoter, but you have an agency to run. What do you do? What are your activities around business development? What's your approach?
Not take too much on, obviously. That's the first approach. Find the right things that we think we can monetize. And then looking at our relationships within our circle and how we can amplify quickly. That's the key here is when you come into SiX18, I want to be able to amplify you fast and have a plan fast. So for my group and I use the Mike's Dead or Fred Minnick as the core examples because you're kind of seeing them in action as we speak, from Fred growing into the Super Bowl thing to Mike's Dead now getting his biggest tour look of his career as of yesterday when we announced In This Moment, and he's going out to support In This Moment in Motionless in White. So you're kind of seeing artist development in action. We're not force feeding. We're slowing it down a little bit. We're getting the brand bulletproof. That's a term that I love when my artists use all the time, bulletproof. So I can silver platter this shit to you. So there's no way you can beat it up. So we know we're coming in confident that there's no, and I cuss a lot, there's no shit in our face, right? I want to come in there and silver platter. We're ready. Our ducks in a row, our plan's in place. Now it's up to you to deliver that plan with us too and provide your plan to add to what we're already doing. And then when you give me that plan, I can probably think about 20 other things once I look at yours and how I can amplify your plan now just based off of our relationships and what we've done in the past from a touring perspective, a sponsorships, brand, marketing, or even a record label perspective. Because we technically are the utility knife of the industry, is how I've kind of positioned this thing where it's like, I'm not competitive. I'm not trying to come in and be CAA. I'm not trying to be WME. I'm not trying to be TKO, the Kirby organization, which is my venture partner. We're SiX18 and we're here to be an accessory to everything you have going on in the right way. So it's the main core of why we started this business, is so we can come in and take a look at what you're doing and amplify. And I've had incredible success early on with Indigo, Bill McGathy's management company, in the liquor space. They have 4 releases through me, through our relationship with 3 Chord, and they have 1 release through Catoctin Creek with the Gwar brand, with their band Gwar, that's been going on for 3 years. So they're a great example of a group that's incredible managers, incredible at what they do, have an incredible roster that basically just came to me and was like, hey, Clay, we need this because our artists want to do this, and me providing an opportunity for them. But by that new opportunity coming in new spaces, provide new opportunity in marketing for these artists and new eyeballs and earballs for them to kind of get to know their brand too, while the new culture gets to know the other brand, the whiskey or the beverage or whatever it may be, hot sauce we've done. You can do anything as long as it makes sense. You can do it.
When something isn't working, whether it's a complete failure, whether a relationship severed, if a certain marketing endeavor isn't working, can you and your business tie together like there's corollaries every time something doesn't work? Is there a corollary like, hey, we just didn't stick with it long enough? We weren't committed enough. Is there something in your mind that you see it and you're like, it's always this?
Sometimes the greatest ideas can be the worst ideas. You don't really know until I always value the fact that, and this is why I love working with the people I work with, is that, let's go for it. Let's put our money where our mouth is. If we think we can do it, let's go. The artists are into it. Like everyone's into it. So the fact is you have to try new things. The theme in business in general, we don't say there's enough in music. You got to spend money to make money, right? I mean, that's just business 101. We learned that in economics in freshman year of college. If you want to make money, you got to spend money. The music industry doesn't like doing that. And that's just the facts. And I know it's because it's different budgets, different game, it's a different way of monetizing the projects now. And I'm speaking specifically to the record labels, which I value them a lot because they provide a lot of opportunity to develop an artist and get you in distribution, all those things too. But at the end of the day, it is a different game now, and to the point where it's like now you need partners like us to come in because we have been utility knives forever, where we can come in and provide some knowledge from the Interscope days or from the live touring days or from the management representation days. And we come in there kind of as a whole, look at the scope across the board and say, hey, we should be doing X, Y, and Z. Why aren't we doing this? Or at least suggest things. But it goes back to you got to spend money to make money. And I don't think the music industry is really operating that way outside the live events business where, they do spend a lot to market these shows and to market their tours and whatnot. But, it's a little different when it comes down to the overall spending a lot of money on breaking a brand, and it's all digital now too, which to me is a mistake. I think we need to go back to the grassroots, the street, the guerrilla. I can easily ignore a digital ad on my phone. I can't ignore a giant billboard in front of my house. I'm going back to that a little bit, to the point where I'm always challenging the people I work with. I'm like, hey, do we really want to spend this? Can we spend half of it on physical? Can we spend half on guerrilla street teams and stuff like that? So I'm always challenging how we can kind of balance between digital and real world.
Where'd this natural energy and charisma come from, Clay? Where'd that come from?
Shit. I don't know. I just love what I do, man. Like, I'm very lucky. It's funny. The last 2 days I've been super tired and a little sick and laying on my couch.
Yeah, you're probably a little worn out, but you still have the energy and charisma.
That's the most energy I've had all week. But honestly, I love what I do. I love talking about it. I love the artists I work with. I believe in them to the point where it's like I wouldn't have the quote unquote balls to take this venture without the people I work with. And that's Andrew Goodfriend, TKO, being my venture partner, and Mike Marulo over there, believing in my vision, saying, you know what, we're trying to step our game up too from an agency perspective. We want to be involved with new ventures. Let us support you and tell us how you can help us. To working with the Mike's Deads and the Fred Minnix and the Amanda Vances and the Danny Warsnops, to all the management agency alliances I have outside. It's a lot of fun. It's not work. Like, I get to call Monster Energy, Nike. Like I'm just talking about these brands. Like, I get to call these people and just talk music and talk lifestyle and sports with these people. Or I just got to spend a week in Vegas for no reason but to hang out and meet people and network and hang out with my clients and go meet celebrities and taste great food and see some incredible fundraising experiences. Like, that's not work. That's fun. So for me, it's like I wake up every day and I'm very, very lucky and fortunate and blessed to do what I do and blessed to work with the people I do. And I'm blessed that they believe in me because without them, there's no SiX18. There's nothing I'm doing, and we're not having this conversation without the artists I work with believing in me and me believing in them, to the point where, like, you know what, we can do this. Let's go on our own. Let's continue working with everybody and being that neutral go-to person to help them, because I'm not trying to sign every band. I'm not trying to sign every talent in the world. I'm very particular on what we're looking for from a management perspective, from an agency perspective. It's so exciting seeing the opportunity out there, because I believe from a core culture, it's been completely underserved. And that's opportunity for artists like Shinedown, artists like Mike's Dead, talent like Amanda and Danny and Fred, and I can go through the other artists I'm working with and helping guide and providing opportunity for. But that's what's exciting. It's like I get to call this work.
Who's the Clay that no one gets to see when the camera and the phone's off?
Only one person gets to see that, and that's my dog. And I love my dog. I think my return flight back from Vegas, I was talking to some lady who's sick of it because I was so excited to see my dog coming home. I love sports. Gigantic Denver Nuggets fan. It's therapy for me. I always have a Nuggets game on when they're watching TV, and if they lose, it's a bad night and don't talk to me. But at the end of the day, it's therapy. Golf is therapy for me, so I love golf. So I get to go out there and get my mind straight a little bit, but it's still part of lifestyle and culture. So I'm always kind of living it. And that's why I say this isn't work. Like, even when I go out golfing, I see opportunity for talent out there. Like, how can we impact the golf market? I'm looking at it like that. Or if I'm at a show, I have no business being there. How can I impact this market? How can I do this? I'm always thinking about how we can do something. And to the point now, like, we did one Super Bowl event. I'm like, how can we do 3? That's where I'm at now. So
growth mindset. So Tiger just had a big move talking about golf and marketing this week, huh?
Massive.
What do you think about that?
I think it's brilliant. And he turned down a lot of money to do that. And I want everyone to understand that part. Is like, he didn't just do that because he didn't have an opportunity. He turned down probably $500 million and owner stakes of brands and stocks and all these things, from everyone from Nike to Puma to Jumpman. You can go through every golf line out there. Probably all just hucking dollars and stockhold shares at him. And he knows better than anyone that his brand is the reason why Nike Golf exists. And let's start our own and do what Jordan did and take the Jumpman and do my own Tiger version of it. Yep. And let's own golf with my swoosh. I think that's what he's doing. It's brilliant. I love it. And it goes back to the point, you got to spend money to make money. And he's probably going to take a loss these first couple years.
Or TaylorMade will.
or TaylorMade will, or whoever's doing it with him. But he's got ownership, and he's taking an investment, and he's going for it. And I think he's going to be set off for the long term, in a good fashion here, because he basically understands that he's the reason Nike Golf exists.
And his top talent in the future might be his son. You never know.
Put that on him, and you get him early. But another thing is, like, that's another reason why I'm very excited about this category is, like, with name, image, and likeness coming in for college and high school athletes. Like, I'm an ex-college athlete. I would have loved to at least get a couple $1,000 from the local car dealership just to go down there and wash cars and do a couple commercials when I was back in the day, because we weren't allowed to work.
What do we do? What do we do with this now? You heard this come out since the Super Bowl was just here. They were talking about all these college quarterbacks that are making millions with the nil stuff versus Purdy making $800 and something $1,000. That's crazy.
It's nuts. It's the reason you stay in school now, believe it or not. But also gives these college kids deserve it. Unfortunately for Brock Purdy, if he was at USC instead of Iowa State playing quarterback, we'd be having a different conversation about how much money NIL and Brock Purdy maybe have made.
How's that going to carry over into the pro levels, though? When that college athlete who was making millions with the name, image, and likeness, how's that going to carry over into their professional careers?
Well, that college kid, if he's got a good agent representative that will maintain that NIL deal going into the pros and amplify it furthermore, because now he's at a different level. So they should have performance escalators built within those deals. If I was representing these people, to the point where, like, okay, cool, I have a high school kid. If he goes D1, there's another performance escalator there. Let's just say I'm talking to a shoe brand, right? High school to college is a jump, college to the pros is a jump. And once you're in college, okay, when does the signature shoe, when you get to the pros, when does the signature shoe come out? When he goes first team all pro, what kind of jump do we get there? What's your ad commitment to him? What are you doing around the all-star game? You see where we're going. It's like, now it's like, okay, how do we really monetize the brand now? But it's getting in early, right? And I think a lot of these kids, Bronny James is the wrong example, because he's not a kid that could be a one and done and go to the NBA after 1 year. He's probably got to stay the 4 years to get what he needs. But like the Caleb Williams from USC, the quarterback, he's an incredible opportunity, because he can say, I don't want to go to the pros if a certain team wants to draft me because it's not the right situation for me. And it gives a lot of leverage back to the kid and the client and the talent, which I think they deserve, because they are the thing that moves the needle. USC has made a ton of money off of jerseys with numbers on them without names on the back. Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Carson Palmer. I can go through the list of them that sit on that wall of theirs of all the Heisman trophies that they've never made a penny on. And in fact, one of them lost a Heisman Trophy because of this NIL stuff.
Isn't that wild, man?
It's wild. And so the point is, I love it. Give the power back to the talent. They deserve it. The schools are making millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars off these kids. TV rights deals, conference deals. It's a business. So why shouldn't the kids get paid off of it? So I love it personally.
Yeah, I like it, man. You're a little bit of a anarchist here, and you're right. It's a little bit inside of you.
It's good to be disruptive.
Yeah.
Nike is disruptive because being disruptive creates change. Change in the brand world creates opportunity. It's as simple as Nike back in the day doing the Jordan deal. That was the most disruptive deal you can imagine. Jimmy Iovine and the Beats by headphones, disruptive deal going in the way the NFL attacked it. The thing is, it's not about paying to play. It's about providing what the consumer and lifestyle wants. And if an athlete wants to wear his Beats by Dre headphones as he warms up, and you can tell him no because Bose wrote someone else a check for $50 million, come on. I mean, to me, that's not disruptive. That's just doing the right thing. I mean, if you're going to force anyone to wear something, they should all participate in it. And if there's an NFL deal, and I don't know the economics of it, for $100 million, well, then half of that should be carved out for the players, and that should be halfly distributed evenly to the Players Association, and leave it at that. Now the players have no problem wearing Bose headphones on the side because they're making money off Bose headphones. It's as simple as that to me. So you've earned it. You're a talent. You've got to the place where your likeness is valued. You should be rewarded for that, not punished for that.
So we can sit here and talk all day, man. Just a couple more things here before I let you go make all this money. You got people to represent and people to talk to. But what I know about business, what I've learned sitting here at 45 years old now, I know that without the path of the past 20 years, I wouldn't be able to be whatever level of capable I am. I wouldn't have been that person without all this compounding experience. And I'm assuming you probably feel the same way about you and your journey and your path.
Absolutely.
What message do we send to the next generations coming behind us that really want it to happen fast, that want these shortcuts, that if I believe it and you believe it, and so many entrepreneurs and very successful people I come across, they're like, I wouldn't have been the person that I am today without all of this experience and commitment and going all in. What do we share with them, man?
Don't focus on the short term. Focus on your long term. It goes back to the patience and meeting people and networking. But at the end of the day, if you feel strongly in your gut about something and you feel it's right and you feel it's $1 million idea, you got to go for it. Don't sit there and say, I wish, I coulda, woulda, shoulda. That culture doesn't mean anything. I love ideas. Ideas are great. They don't do anything though. It's about acting off of those ideas and executing them and building them into something that's a fully executed plan and idea that's out there that you can see and touch and feel and hear and whatever it may be. So my I guess what I would give the youth and anyone talking to me 20 years ago is learn, be patient, be positive, drop the ego at the door, and when you know you're ready, you're ready. That's the best way I could say it, because you'll know when it's time if you want to be on your own or you want to chase a product or an idea. And I saw it. You remember the shutter shades?
Yep.
Those shutter shades guy. So
yep.
that launched. The guy who started that was a guy in my that was a temp at Interscope Records with me, and we both were temping at the same time. And so I love that. So there's a kid that the lowest level employee at a major label, Interscope Records, and we were temps. It was early on. That's how you got in. We had to be in the accounts payable department, and we were looking at each other like you and I are looking at each other right now. Mm-hmm. And he got a little promotion. He started working in the hip hop rap world, but he had this idea. These plastic shades that were called shutter shades, and because he started meeting people and someone got it in their hand, all of a sudden a magazine spoke about it. He was doing so many units that he had to quit his job. And I think that's where it's like, you got an idea, you're the one that knows it better than anyone, go for it. The best.
If he wouldn't have been in that moment, if he wouldn't have been in that moment of that intern on the accounts payable, putting in that time, he wouldn't have been close to the sun to be able to have that opportunity to have those relationships.
But it also goes back even on like a more fine scale. Like I use this reference as like, we used to look up at the sky and saying, how do we fly? We can't fly. We can't do it. Well, someone figured it out.
Yep.
And believe it, depending on how you feel about conspiracy theories, some people think we went to the moon, right? But someone looked up there and said, can it be done? No, I can't do it. So no one tried, but someone tried and they got there.
It's like a 4-minute mile, right? 4-minute mile.
It's the
Dude,
same
bus
thing.
sitting and thousands of people do it.
It's the same thing. So I'm a big believer of that. It's like, yo, if you believe in it, go get it, man. Like, they told us we couldn't fly. They told us we couldn't go to space. They told us we couldn't go under. They told us we couldn't do all these things. And as technology's changed and as mind and brain has worked, we've allowed ourselves to reach these goals. So it's like, there's no difference in business. It's like, set the goal, go after the goal, and reach the goal.
So when shit gets real hard for you, it lines up with this, and then we can wrap with this. When it gets real hard, because you get a lot of haters, a lot of doubters. If you listen to that, man, they're all over the place, right? Come up with some new idea. You'll hear all the people who have never done anything with their idea. Never. They'll tell you all the reasons why you can't and shouldn't and won't, and you'll ruin your life. But when things really do get tough, because as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, inevitably you're going to have some tough moments. What do you rely on in those tough moments, man? Like the toughest, darkest nights, days, because you can love your job as much as you want. But sometimes when the chips are down, it gets tough. What do you do?
What do you do?
What do you rely on?
You look at yourself in the mirror and just tell yourself that it's okay. It's all good. Like, this part of the journey. It has not been easy. Life has not been easy. I flunked a couple papers. I've flunked a couple tests. Didn't flunk out of school, right? And it's the same thing. It's like playing football. I got rocked. This is me talking to myself, obviously, right? Like, You got rocked in college. You're a 6 foot, 210-pound linebacker. You got rocked, but you keep getting rocked. Well, guess what? I rocked that dude the next play, right? It's just about that competitive nature that I think an entrepreneur has to have, and it's the kill what you eat or eat what you kill. I always screw that one up when I bring it up, but
we know what you mean, man. We know.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's like, you got to go out there and get it, and when you get frustrated, the good ones get more motivated, and the ones that aren't set for it kind of put their hands up and take a step back and go in their corner and hide for a little bit, and you can't get them on the phone for a couple days, we all know those entrepreneurs because we deal with them, and they have a great team around them that kind of separate that. But you can't get frustrated. And if you do, and if you're the guy that's like, hey, or the person, not the guy, the person that gets frustrated over losses like that, well, this probably ain't a good job for you. And you should probably go find a full-time gig. And there's no disrespect to you for doing that. I have a lot of incredible friends that have incredible lives and pensions and all the things they have because they work for someone. That's fucking great, dude. Go do it and have a great life and live with your family. I'm the 42-year-old dude that is chasing, that says, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I'm not settled until I'm settled. And I don't know when that will be.
Yeah. What's the word retirement even going to mean to Clay?
Retirement is, I don't know. I haven't even thought about that. We all dream about legacies in our business. It would be nice to know that when it's all said and done, and when I'm out of the business, and SiX18 is an agency that's been purchased 1,000 times by 1,000 different companies because they just value the brand. It'll be nice to know that my legacy was that I created new opportunity for people that weren't being paid attention to. And I think that's where I started this agency. That's why I started representing the people I represented, and that's why I'm really taking a full go at this. Is because I'm looking at this as a great value for the industry across the board. Because I've been at those agencies, I know that only 1% gets spoken about on a constant basis, and I want to be the guy to super serve the underserved. So that we'll always be those people, and we'll champion that. And I think that's what's going to keep us going. I'll be happy when it's all said and done. They say SiX18 agency was an incredible agency because they provided new opportunity for talent.
Awesome, man. All right. So where do we go? What's the best place for us to follow you on your incredible journey in this thing you're building?
I mean, it's all new right now. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Clay Busch, one word, ClayBusch. Follow the SiX18 agency, SiX18agency.com. SiX18 agency is also on Twitter and Instagram, but it's SiX18 agency. And that's how you can find us. It's fairly new, but keep following us and following me on the LinkedIn. And you'll see all the great stuff we have going on. But the last 2 weeks have been pretty incredible with the Super Bowl event with Fred, and then with Mike Stead, most recent tour announced within this moment in Motion's Life. So it's been an incredible 2 weeks since we've had the Billboard piece launch, and it's up to me to maintain that momentum and make sure my clients continue that momentum.
Good story. Boy, if you keep on building this thing, this will be something fun to watch, man. So
kudos. We'll be up in Kentucky having some bourbon together.
Stop by, baby. We're here just south of Cincinnati. So
I love it.
And we don't know what to say other than northern Kentucky where I'm at. But if you look out of our windows here on the 9th floor of our office building, downtown Cincinnati's at our feet. It's a really weird area.
I know exactly where you're at.
You know it. Yeah, we're 3 exits from the river.
There you go.
So,
yeah, I know exactly.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, we got bourbon happening everywhere. So if you swing by, we have a few of them in house. Maybe not as good as Fred and you have, but we got some good stuff.
Well, be our guest at Bourbon and Beyond Festival. You can always come out. Fred and I are always there. Even if you don't want to work and you just want to just hang out, we're a fun hang, especially when we're not working down there. So,
is that what you're trying to get me to do? Work, man? Is that what this is?
Listen,
is this like some free labor stuff? Do we need to call some labor board?
I'm going to go back what I said first. It ain't work if you're having fun.
All right. So it's all fun.
Exactly.
Hey, thanks for joining us, brother. Good conversation. I'm excited about your venture, and I'm pretty confident here, man. That I talk to a lot of people, and you do too, but entrepreneurs. When I come across somebody that has this passion and this commitment for whatever the thing is, whoever you're associated with, whoever you're leading in this situation, representing people, those people are good. They're well off, man. They're taken care of, and to have somebody like you on their side, they're gonna go further in their career than they would have otherwise. So
thank you. Yeah, I'm genuinely in it because I love everyone I work with from a love perspective, and that's why I don't sign everybody. It's very particular on who we work with. We'll amplify all our friends and help our friends where they need, but when it comes to like core SiX18 management, we're going to be pretty particular because, to your point, we are very hands-on. We're business developers. We're brand developers. It goes back to what I said earlier. It's like, if you want a traditional music manager, we're not the guy. If you want someone to build a company and build some disruption in the space, we're the right guys.
I can tell you smile when those opportunities show up.
It's the only way to live.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, man, have a good 2024.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right, man.